I'd first off like to thank everybody, first of all, for coming on such a snowy day. Thanks for the words aloud. This has been a great festival. Such a treat to come to such a vibrant and enthusiastic audience and to be introduced to so many different writers. And I think what's great about a festival like this is the multiplicity of voices that you have. Nobody sounds the same, and I think that's beautiful. That's the way poetry is. I'm going to kind of, a reading is a kind of contract in a way, and I wanted this contract to be kind of figured on a wedding. So I've got something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. So I'm going to start off with the new stuff, somewhat new. It's from my collection Air, which is my fourth book. There has been a fair bit, let's not mince words, there's been a fair bit of drinking going on during the festival. And I've got some poems about drinking. I thought it was kind of a nice, soft way to get us back into the sobriety of a Sunday. So this is about drinking, these first poems about drinking, and these are, this is first an invocation. Rise, spirits. Stagger up from cuddled cups, fuddled sops. Revive and sway from all sorts pots, debauched sots. Crawl from bar stools and tabletops, soused gutter mops. From grain muck, potato hunk, grape must, sugar lump. From warts, washes, and hops, you dyspomaniac drunks. From backdoor bathtub, bootleg, slap bang, still shops. From shady lounges, bars, and pubs. From ghostly palaces, parlors, ghastly dives, and clubs. Come, wet your whistle, tie one on, and beaver up. With a brew of pearl, sack, hawk, pulque, flip, and junk. For you tipsy tipple hogs and potationist punks, I tap the kegs, barrels, pipes, and butts. I tip the flagons, noggins, flasks, and jugs. For you carousing lot, imbibe a damp, a round a go, a shents, a nudge, a squib, a rub, and a pint of hot. Oh, drink deep draughts of my wine dark plonk. Swill it, swig it, sling it, toast it, tope it, toss it. Oh, glug, gulp, guzzle, knock it back, and lap it up. Now, as this firmament ferments for us, rise and slur. Oh, stumble up to orate and pontificate. From the faint fog, sway to ornate and obfuscate. Convivial mates to oraculate and equivocate. Oh, rise, intoxicants, rise up and speak. Part of the fun with this book is it's a book about sound. It's a book about a number of things, kind of going from the comical to the serious, and so playing with sound is obviously something that goes through the book, and you'll hear that as I go through it. But it was also fun to kind of just look at drinking, the culture of drinking, and so this book is a book made up of this poem is a poem made up of cocktail names. Let's see if you can figure them all out. So it's called Cocktails, Tom Collins. Fucking drunk and erectily defunct, Tom Collins lies face down in the muck. Before Tom soured and bittered, before the tiny plastic sword, the B&B and the B&E, life was a strawberry daiquiri. But Tom, always over thin ice, soured and went Ward 8 for the hard stuff. Public drinking, nightcaps, and pubic dinking. Half-cocked between highballs and fuzzy navels, he'd suck back black Russians and slurp at old-fashioned pink ladies. Shake it, stir it, buy Tom a Mickey, and it didn't much matter. Flexible as a maraschino cherry stem, he'd spike his rusty nail on the cable car, muddle his mojito in the sidecar, or drop a depth charge on some wet bar. Come summertime, beneath a miniature umbrella, you could always find Tom with his pina colada shouting woo-woo during sex on the beach. Such were the enthusiasms of his orgasms. Son of a boilermaker and a dirty bird, Tom's last Singaporean sling was his Pearl Harbor. You can sometimes see him now in beer halls after 8, boarding the red eye with his mates. Rob Roy, Bloody Mary, Harvey Wallbanger. A few years ago, in the theme of alcohol, I went to the Okanagan and went to a number of wineries there, 20 specifically, and it was a fun trip. And I have to admit, I really love the language around wine, and it's so overblown, so hyper, that I wanted to write a poem about it that would play with that hyperness of the language. So this is about an imaginary bottle of wine called Chateau du Mauvais Chien 2004. 1. Harvest notes. Desire, harvested late, crushed. Vinters notes. The collected paparazzi of faux sommelier, selected malolactically fermented to milk and strained through the white kid gloves of the late Queen Mum. Cellared in St. Vincent's hollow chest. Screw the rest. Tasting notes. Gooey globate gobsmacks of jellied gingivitis and jejune jujube juice galloping gargantuan in the gorge. Golly. Guzzle it gingerly, guggle it like grub gum in a groaning Gregorian gargle, both godly and goy, or gloss over the gewgaws with glee. Generally, it's going to groat you, grind and grunt. Gently, the gastro-gibbet gimcracks will gaff you, gape and gag. This grainy gunk, a good gallows glug, is glum gossamer. It's greasy grape glad. It's like gothic gouda gabbled with glacial granite gravel. It grabs you in the gut bucket as a garish gardyloo from the glory hole. Go get this generic jam. It's only a gazillion gold guineas for grand gourmand gaga. Give it as gift to your guy, grant it as graft to your gal, or in gregarious gemütlichkeit to your gay girlfriends, those gorgeous gads. Gauche? Gosh, yes, but gone with genial glam from your gaping goblet. Given your gallon is gonzo, by gar, you're gonna grieve from your grotto in the gutter, your gasping gulch. And of course, every night of drinking has to come to an end. Ms. Mitzi. Ms. Mitzi, not chintzy but glitzy, sports an itsy bitsy of quartz and quetzal. Since bat mitzvah, sheets spritz tzatziki, blitz blintzes with drizzled schmaltz, plot zitzits in the matzah whilst frizzling gizzards and spätzle. Chizzy ditzes kabitz, not a schmuck but a patzer, with the head of a tzanza, an air sans rosenkrantz. What a puzzle Miss Mitzi is. But Ms. Mitzi muzzles the tsaritzas and waltzes their grizzled czars to jazz on the Ritz's Wurlitzer like a Hazan or Tzitzi in a buzzy kazoo. Undazzled, she guzzles Retsina and fizzy seltzers and crazes in jacuzzis till jizz squizzles from nuzzled pizzles or puts the putzes up her wazoo. Gunts, they tuzzle her schnitzel and dazzle her fuzzy platzel, her triple lutz, her schmazel. Dizzy and tizzy, she fizzles in a frazzle. Ms. Mitzi, what a puzzle. This is actually, I'll put on the video now. Actually, yeah, we'll put on the first slide. This would be a good transition to, we'll just leave it up there. This will be a good transition into, the rest of the poems have some videos except for the last one. So this, I would say this is probably, here we're still in the new and in the old in terms of the themes for this reading. So this is a transition into the second part of this book, which is around HIV. I've been working in HIV both at the community level and domestically for about 15 years. And so I wanted to, in this book, kind of write about sex, write about love, write about death. I hadn't really done it before, and kind of at the same time also wanted to write about friends who had died from AIDS over the years or living with HIV. So this is a transition into some of those more serious poems. This is called Safer Lex. And so in this poem, what I've done is taken the instructions for the use of latex condoms and replaced all the sexual words with slang from a dictionary called Safer Lex, from the Sex Lexical Dictionary. And this is what you end up with. Safer Lex. Treat your plumber's helper gently and keep him out of the sun. Practice putting on a pullover while manning the cockpit on your own. You never know when Jack will strike the jack pocket, so carry a rain jacket at all times. This is not zipper morals, but a responsible way to get one's chimney swept. Open the envelope carefully to avoid damaging your diving suit. Then gently pull the cassock over the bishop's mitre. If you plan to lap southern seas, do so over a half-cut nightcap. As an alternative, before heading to the bush with your sleeping bag, why not try using your quail pipe to roll the tent over the tent peg? If you have Venetian blinds, pull them back so the Cyclops is Deadeye in the Trojan. The thingamabob should not cover the thingamies. If you plan to do some uphill gardening, use lots of jelly on your hoe handle. You don't want the seed sack to split when carrying wild oats. If your exclamation point becomes a dangling modifier, the head gasket might slip from the dipstick. This is the biggest single cause of gene pool failure. If it does this while varnishing the pole, obviously stop the train. You will need a new hubcap before you get ball bearing grease everywhere. If making sandwiches or moving from a mustard jar to a honey pot, never use the same Freudian slip twice. Also, Freudian slips come in many textures and sizes. Once you have sent your troops to the hinterlands, carefully withdraw and pull off your armor. Watch out, it is still full of live ammunition. Remember, for trips to the Pink Palace in the Black Forest, rubber boots are essential. Riding stallions, saddle up. Yeah, and so the next poems are about kind of people that I've met over the years, and at the same time kind of writing about what HIV means in our culture, and the history of HIV. Sometimes these are things that we don't necessarily like to talk about, and you'll notice I've got a few things that we don't like to talk about, and that'll be probably the theme of the rest of the reading. This is called Intravenous. Lynn, we met the day Dawn asked to suck me off. Not my cock, he made clear, but toes without socks. Boys in sandals got him off. You wheel through that memory, your legs and cast the virus rhyming RNA to reverse transcriptase your DNA. Bone-sapped combivir, saquinavir, ritonavir by the daily pharmablasts to make you gag and keep the docs away. Those were the days we worked in then. Homeless guys down on 2nd, drunk on old stock beer by 10. Sex workers, hookers, days by night work, up from the streets for the free lipstick and condoms, safes we dispensed. High on heroin, smack, or as the cell becomes a sieve, coke, crack. Eyes blue with another negative test, mascara or black from pimp beatings in the parking lot turns positive out back. Lynn, you fundraised, you spoke, you organized. You were one of the few who could help men die, and I never once saw you, like me, teary-eyed. Every day since then, this, the line I tend. I see it, think it, caught daring words to mean, by habit everything I've touched and seen. My fingers still type its name, all caps, it. That floating thing, sex equals silence equals death, called a referent. As in the doc says, I've got it. Voice, quiver, bold, italics, carrying us away from the linguistic things we never wanted meant. Grid, the gay plague, the empty cipher AIDS, and Christian placards saying God loves fags. Insert thread. Dead body. Doc, I'm 21 and just found out I've got HIV. I'm done. Dead. I write it now between the faces of the faceless men who came and went. Figure 1, see this micron pic of a lymphocyte swarmed by neon pink viral replicants. Look how they shimmer and dance, a sequin dress of nothingness. Like so many torn couplets, each with something new to mend. Lynn, we were the same age, but you got fucked. The body with sex is blessed, and I didn't. That's where our stories split. Fucked by a boyfriend who didn't know he had it. Fucked by the used needle he shot with, the pusher who pushed it. Fucked, it's also never at rest, by the grower who grew it, the mule who shoved it up his ass at the border and got through it. Fucked and concerned for years by their needles and plastics, the politicians with their votes and budgets. and fucked in its own blood by the poster saying he, a woman carrying a boy child, was an innocent victim, meaning everyone else in tears deserved it. You got fucked by the infinite, a virus and its 33 million faces that loves everything it erases. Lynn, so many words, you and the drugs got better. To say it, why, we slept together in your bed. I haven't looked for you since then. No stupid rhymes, scared of knocking you from that past the living with the dead, tense where your bones began to mend. A whole new life, no one screamed when you bled, was inserted in. The next poem is called The Cocktail, and this was for a friend of mine, Donnie Peters, who had died in 1999. So I'll switch to the next. And you'll notice that some of the poems on the screen will go with the reading, sometimes they won't. And that's fine. Tune into what you want. I like to have a number of things kind of going on. And I should have said, actually, the first shirts that you saw were actually taken from the Canadian AIDS quilt, and they were overlaid on top of a document that was the first reported case of HIV in Canada. So this is called The Cocktail. Donnie, we counted the days till your death, by tulip spears and lily bayonets. I last saw you in a has-been coat, fox fur, always a scene, on 17th Ave in November. Your bare feet in pumps, breath aerosol with alcohol and smoke. Kiss me, my blue-balled cowboy, my boy toy, my call boy. Wasn't AIDS fucked your head, but 10 years of coke. If you read poetry, you didn't. You might know Lorca, you wouldn't. Rode a horse of pearl. A horse rode hard and put away wet. His took less time than yours, but obeyed all the rules of faggot death. Here's the rhyme. A gun blew the Mercon Rojo all over the avenue. Donnie, my disease Argonaut, fleecing the golden pubes, my barber of the uncivil, my resurrected stiff. Drag drags on even amongst the dead. So I want you as you weren't, not your second coming, a protease tease in a 90-pound negligee of sweat and black sarcoma lace, so late 1980s. Lipo, pills, tubes, the shits. Is it a eulogy if we wished you death? The next poem is called The Body, and I'll explain it a little bit. It's a found poem, and I'm going to use a number of found poems throughout the rest of the reading. The idea of a found poem is you take pre-existing documents and then you kind of work with them a lot, kind of like the centos that were read the other night. You work with this information a lot to kind of create something like a poem. And so I've found the technique really useful. And what I did for this poem called The Body is I went through archives, 10 years of archives at a website called thebody.com. It's the biggest HIV/AIDS online internet resource in the world. And so over the decades, people could anonymously write in with their questions about HIV, and then doctors would respond to them with answers. And I thought it was a really interesting place for information about HIV, but also it really encapsulated over, probably over a 15 period, the stupidity and the fear and the disgust and the sadness around HIV. And I thought it was kind of, so I've created a poem that kind of almost collapses 2 decades of HIV into a few pages. So I've got, the video will go with along with the reading. So doc, what do I do? Every time my fear of getting AIDS is so intense, too much soul pain. I'm a 25-year-old guy from a very small town and moved to the city for a better gay life. Gave fellatio to a Thai ladyboy. I had my curiosity, I ain't gonna lie. We met through web chatting, hand jobs in the cafeteria, her mouth in the theater, last 1 minute, ejaculation, swallowed immediately. I believe the fear of AIDS is remorse when sex is bad. Trans girl that I don't like and that is not very serious. I would like an advice from you on how to manage death. Is it acceptable to be with trans girl that he does not like? I kissed her, sucked their nipples. Could this be late conversion? Blowjobs with lots of tongue? I purchased a lot of condom. When you go to France, you're gonna need 'em. I met with a lot of girls. Thank you. This guy I shared bleached needles with, HIV positive. I am worried, this guy. I can't eat or drink. I realize I'm a late converter. God, I don't have much time. I need to know if you think this case. I was at a strip club and the stripper tongued my ear. Is this HIV? 1 in 1,000? 10,000? 100,000? Listen, I'm totally fuck. I might actually kill myself. I have a friend, 35, bottomed his way to the top. Los CD4 eran 620, el CB indetectable. Boyfriend cheated with a trisexual. The girl he was killed herself because her husband had AIDS. He had said he had been being tested, but he condom broke. Laugh out loud. There might have been pre-cum. I can't say there wasn't pre-cum. Could there have been pre-cum? Should I start taking PEP? I've always known I was positive. It must be a rare strain. I have no desire for a med-filled life with sides. Is my whole life pre-cum? Laugh out loud. Please save me. Now I want to make sex with life. Shall I wear that latex garbage condom? 52-year-old woman in menopause. She is a slut or I don't know, but God, I love this girl. Unusual vaginal discharge, 5 years in that army. Unprotected anal, antigenic shift and drift. Lubed with spit, it hurts so bad. I had blood and sucked his nipples. I'm pretty sure there was snow milk. I just need to know if one, was the protracted BJ and nipple sucking even worth it? Would HIV survive a lollipop, book, brother-in-law? Because the virus is all over the place, but gets active when it gets into an orgasm. God, I'm only 15 and I don't want something like that. I swallowed my own sperm and it's quite many. Please help me. If a guy gives another guy oral, everyone comes in his mouth. Does he can still live healthy forever and live happily ever after with me? I love him so much, very too much. I parked my car, shat myself. I cried, shat myself. Mon cher docteur, j'ai tellement besoin. Shit. I guess I'm retching out tonight. I guess I find my strength and meds within. I guess I want to know whose nag, whose pause, when every ache, every cough is the virus taking away what's fake. I mean, I knew it was the HIV, killing me slowly, softly. You see, I'd been nagged 23 times when he raped and ejaculated inside me, and you're the first person I'm sharing this with. Hello, I can't pay for one of my meds this month. Hello, I've become resistant. Hello, I'm using a vibrator in the shape of a pussy. With an open sore on top of my Virginia, we did it in my backside, illegal in North Carolina. I licked her clit vigorously, bare-backed 3 tops, fucked by a man with Jesus tattoo, pero no hubo eyaculación interna ni sangramiento, and wonder if that makes the odds more even. You see, we lost our baby, and he wants to have another. Viral load over 10 million, but I won't make it. So, Doc, what do I do? The next poems that I'm going to read are completely different, and I love doing that. It's the fun thing about taking on different projects and taking up different books, is getting the chance to kind of write about things that you really want about in a completely different way. This book I'm going to read from X. It's all about racism. It's about settler, colonial, First Nations, Aboriginal issues in Canada. It kind of came from the desire to want to write about, I guess, my family and the sort of history that my family over generations has on Treaty 6 land in Alberta. And I realized that in order to tell that story, I had to tell a much larger story, and kind of go back to, I think, the law and really actually talking about the treaties, because I think the treaties are really such an integral part of what Canada is legally. And so I wanted to look at what art can actually do in a space like that. And so at the same time, I was working on this project for over about 3 years, and I had to describe it many times, and I wasn't always really that great at describing it. So I ended up making a poem that actually described what this book is all about. The poem that's in the background, I should warn you, it has some offensive material. It is, I call it white noise. It's in the back part of this book. And it was a poem that I wrote around the Idle No More movement that was happening in Canada in 2012. And what I did is I went through 15,283 publicly posted comments in response to major news articles around Idle No More and the hunger strike of Chief Teresa Spence. And I used it as an opportunity to kind of grab the sort of common discourse that was going on in Canada around race and around Aboriginal people. And as you could well imagine, reading that many comments was not fun. And it's some of the worst stuff that you'd see, but at the same time I also felt that poetry should not shy away from this. This is actually, I think, a big part of what makes us Canadian. We have a lot of racism in Canada. And so I don't believe in making poems that are just pretty. I believe in making poems that are ugly and talk about ugly things as well. So there is some ugly stuff here, and it's going to go in the background with this poem. You are here. Though not endorsed by the Treaty Commissioner, I would like to acknowledge this book was written in the said country. Well, this book was written, contested territory was tested. I would like to acknowledge the Sekimik, the Cree, and the Algonquin nations upon whose territories this book was written. The land was shovel-ready. I would like to acknowledge I did not ask for permission, that I felt too uncomfortable to ask and didn't know how to, that I don't know if asking is the answer because I barely know the questions. I would, however, like my acknowledgement to be acknowledged. Warning, this book is not about distant lands. Greek and Roman philosophers, Japanese haiku masters, and Elizabethan poets will not be discussed. This book is about desire, the desire to look elsewhere. This book is about where I live, a place still settling, still making the land, law by law, arrest by arrest, jail by jail, its own, snowblown. As stipulated in subparagraph 12(1)(a)(4), paragraph 12(1)(b), or subsection 12(2), or under subparagraph 12(1)(a)(3), pursuant to an order made under subsection 109(2), a dispute cannot be made under this section of my book. Warning, this book of verse demands more of verse. This book demands perversity. This book uses words as heard in annual reports and business prospectus, the smooth cadence of policy platforms and parliamentary committees, the shouts of protesters and riot police. This book, also known as The Heart of Whiteness, tarries in Indian territory, my terra firma, where all intercourse is, of course, governed by the official Indian Intercourse Act. Making land. Here is a YouTube loop of me stepping from my Legend 12-foot ultralight aluminum boat with its Mercury 2.5 horsepower 4-stroke engine, book in hand, claiming all of this as my new-found land. This book, also entitled What?, is part of my much larger Amnesia project, created with generous support from the Ministry for Elective Memory. This book is new, groundbreaking, people moving, tree clearing, root pulling, concrete pouring, factory building, new. Tired of maintaining the holes in its language, tired of staying silent, so tired of forgetting this book. This book, marking its territory on virgin snow and barking at the fence line, is about the settler's dream of legitimacy. Warning, the reading of this book while at a game between the Eskimos, Blackhawks, Braves, or Indians, sponsored by Mohawk Gas, within a vat of melted Land O'Lakes, sweet cream, salted butter, chewing Red Man tobacco while listening to Indian Giver by the Ramones may be dangerous to your health. This book was written in the gaps between words written and words spoken, words meant and words meant only to fill the space of meaning. This book I will write until I get it right, and I will never get it right. About a land held by therefores, herebys, and hereinafters, this book, La Terre de ma Mère. This terrible book, with its interracial terroir, was written on an interrogated territory of error. Warning, reading this book could be harmful. See this picture of Jim, he has cancer, and says, I wish I'd never started reading.